Coming up on a positive note,
be who you are.
It's Pride Month.
And I'll stand right next to you.
We're uplifting voices from the LGBTQ plus community around our tri-state.
I'm an out lawyer and I'm proud to be gay.
And exploring what it means to be an ally.
You know, it's a privilege to be able to do that.
Today, all of our news is good news. I'm Judea Murray.
And I'm Arnold Davick.
Here on a positive note, we highlight the most heartwarming stories from all around our tri-state that move and inspire us. And normally I do that by myself, but it's Pride Month and no one should be alone with all this cheer. So I called News 12's beloved Arnold Davick to share the good news with me.
And on this very special episode, I'm honored to help you shine a spotlight on all things that are positively Pride. Now, if you've never celebrated Pride Month before, get ready and get set because it's about to be a party.
And what's a party without the music? Our first guest is a lawyer by day, but punk rocker by night.
Vicky Ferreira is #goals, staying true to herself and making a positive difference in her community.
Vicky F. prepares to lay down a track at Factory Underground in Norwalk.
She can be forgotten.
Pride Month's busy for the musician and reproductive rights attorney.
And I'm not sure I would have survived my 20s if I hadn't segued out of being a punk rocker.
The balance didn't happen overnight.
You know, it was a pretty wild scene at CBGB's back at that time.
In the 70s, Vicky played along pioneers of punk.
It was so fast. When I listened to those songs from the early 80s, I'm like, how did I ever sing that fast? How did I ever play that fast?
Eventually putting down her guitar and heading to law school in search of herself.
I was married to a man for several years in my 20s.
After coming out, she later focused her practice on building families.
Gay people are making families, so reproductive technology for lesbian couples and gay male couples is crucial. We need it.
25 years away from music, a friend's death inspired a return.
I was there at her deathbed, and I was singing to her as she passed.
All right.
Now the tempo's mellower.
It's more like ba 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 ba.
I can imagine a simple religion.
Still, the 64-year-old has the heart of a rebel.
I'm an out lawyer, and I'm proud to be gay, and now I'm able to use my music to be a proud lawyer and musician.
I think the coolest part about Vicky's journey is that coming out later in her life didn't stop her from living a successful or a happy one. I mean, that's got to be pretty scary to do.
Yeah, definitely. She had a lot of courage.
That's actually the perfect segue to today's Did You Know? Being a part of the LGBTQ plus community might mean coming out to family, friends, and the general public, not just about sexual orientation, but maybe about identity too. One company is working on building allyship to alleviate that stress.
Did you know that Instagram now allows users to display their pronouns on their profiles because no matter what gender you might assume someone might present as, it might not be how they identify.
Instagram gives users the option to edit their profile and choose up to 3 pronouns for display. You should note that not everyone who puts their pronouns up identify as queer, though. Some people do it to show solidarity, to normalize the behavior of learning how someone identifies before assuming. That's called allyship. Pronouns are especially important to this pediatrician at Montefiore in the Bronx. She's raising awareness about gender identity by making it a point to learn those of her patients. Dr. Lauren Roth is actively working to increase research and education with LGBTQ plus health, developing a national curriculum. She's teaching parents and health workers alike how to support the youth and create a safe space for exploration and understanding.
I've been really working to try to train future pediatricians in the right terminology to use, how to make your environment a safe space so your patients feel comfortable talking to you about it. One of the biggest things I'd love to get across is the difference between the sex assigned at birth and gender. There is a gender spectrum. It's not just boy or girl. You know, there's a wide range of gender identities, and it's important to be supportive and kind and respectful to all of those people.
When in doubt, Dr. Roth says the best thing to do is just ask.
And now for a recent big win for the trans and non-binary community in New York State. Have you heard of the Gender Recognition Act? We met up with someone who spent years pushing for its enactment.
this is going to be a game changer for me.
Charlie, who identifies as they, them, has been working for years to get this gender recognition bill passed and says it will make everyday life much simpler for non-binary and transgender Long Islanders.
It's also affirming to be able, if someone gives you a hard time, you can just say, no, the government recognizes me for who I am, so that's me.
The bill will allow non-binary, intersex, or undesignated gender New Yorkers to use an X for their sex on driver's licenses rather than identifying themselves as male or female. As of right now, people will only be allowed to change their driver's licenses and birth certificates. Things such as your passport is on a federal level, but Charlie says they are working to get that passed as well. Assemblywoman Jessica Gonzalez Rojas says people now have options to ensure their gender is honored and respected.
This is really just about dignity and respect, right? And reducing stigma and ensuring that every single person, no matter their gender identity or expression, has the opportunity to thrive in the state.
Charlie says if a non-binary or transgender person applies for a job, if their documents don't match, people have to out themselves to employers. Having the correct gender identification on official documents helps protect the safety of transgender people and allows them better access to housing, employment, or other public benefits.
Just removing that potential issue really will make a difference for folks.
The bill would also allow parents the choice to be designated as father, mother, or parent on their child's birth certificate.
Now, as excited as Charlie is, now it's crunch time. The governor still has to approve the bill. If Cuomo signs it, New York could become the 25th state to offer a gender-neutral marker on at least some official documents. Now let's keep the good times rolling with this next story.
A local organization in Connecticut is giving a type of support that some in the LGBTQ+ community lost when they came out: a mother's warm embrace.
Empowering the world to celebrate the LGBTQIA+ community.
Coming out can feel lonely.
The fact that there are a lot of people who don't get the family support, the encouragement, the affirmation.
A Midwest mom sparked an idea: offer a hug to anyone. It took off.
I contacted the national organization and said, do you have a chapter in Connecticut? They said, no, start one.
Ellen Hart began at Bethel Pride 2019.
We set up a booth, we walked around, we gave hugs, we went on the march, and it was amazing.
One of the first recipients, Alana Kennedy.
My extended relatives all disowned me, as did my wife as well. So I was feeling quite low.
The embrace broke her isolation.
And I just started crying. I was thinking about normal, everyday mothers were accepting me. I could maybe survive in this world.
Then the world shifted.
It was kind of difficult, especially for an organization that actually has hugs in the name, that we couldn't have any human contact.
Free Mom Hugs pivoted online.
We hosted a weekly Zoom if anybody wanted to just drop in and chat.
Now there's a different type of transition.
I would ask you, do you want a hug, a fist bump, a wave? What are you comfortable with?
An elbow bump.
An elbow bump.
Well, not everyone may feel ready for a hug. Support is always in style.
You'll find free mom hugs at Pride events around Connecticut. You can also connect with them on their Facebook page.
And there on that page, you'll find the rules and safety regulations if you'd like to join.
Good old Father Time seems to have quite the sense of humor. Get this, less than 10 years ago, the Human Rights Campaign ranked Trenton as the least gay-friendly city in New Jersey. But today, it's led by an openly gay mayor, and of course, we sat down with him.
A rainbow flag sits behind the desk of Trenton Mayor Reed Gussiora. But besides that, it's all business for the 22-year assemblyman turned mayor following a razor-thin upset victory in 2018.
I like the challenge that mayors actually solve things.
Mayor Gussiora's public coming out story began in 2006 when questioned by a reporter while serving his 10th year in the assembly.
It became news that night, but I thought it was time to really just come out and just be who I was, and it would make things a lot easier.
His public battle with Governor Christie in 2012 reignited the headlines when Gussiora challenged the governor's veto on the Marriage Equality Act.
That became somewhat personal when he called me numbnuts.
Gussiora regrets nothing about coming out and says it's an honor to not only be the first openly gay assemblyman, but also Trenton's first openly gay mayor.
It's heartwarming when you get emails from parents and even young gay kids alike that they really feel that their life is not a dead end and that they do have some self-worth.
Gussiora says his focus is bringing new industry back to the capital city, improving public safety, and yes, being a voice for the growing LGBT community in Trenton.
And I think that people should be, and particularly politicians should be, judged on what they can do for the people and how they can move the city forward, and that's what I intend to do.
It takes courage to be the first anything. And that's a feeling one employee at the New York City Housing Authority knows all too well. She was their first openly gay female worker.
She talked to News 12 about what that experience was like.
Teresa Bethia began working with NYCHA as a maintenance trainee in 1985. Back then, she was only 18 years old and the only female worker on the site. When she came out as a lesbian to her male supervisors and coworkers, she says the reactions were mixed. But ultimately, Bethia says that the culture at NYCHA has improved over the years and it's become more welcoming of its LGBTQ+ employees.
I always deemed then that everywhere I was going to go, that I was going to make an announcement, right? Like, because the whispers could get to you and they could defeat you. So I tell a lot of young people that's in the LGBT community, listen, you don't have to tell nobody if you don't want, it just makes your life easier.
Bethia stands firm behind her decision to come out and stay true to her identity. She says it helped change things for the better.